to another session of our Round the Markets with Peter McGuire. Peter, brief us, where are we at? What are we seeing?
Well, good morning, Will. Yeah, last 2 weeks, Canadian election, German election, new Prime Minister announced in Japan. We've had talk as far as taper being tapered by the Fed. There's the ongoing Evergrande situation as far as paying bondholders. You've had currency moves all over, gyrating wildly. US dollar has improved quite significantly over the last 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. Gold's been sold off. Crude oil touched $80 a barrel, 5-year highs. Equities were sold off heavily earlier in the week, and they've been hit higher, a little bit higher in yesterday trade in New York. And that really is the capstone of what has happened and where we're moving forward to.
So talk to me about the energy crisis and the fuel shortages and the optics of the of fuel crisis in the UK at the moment.
Well, that's right. And how is that going to be impacted? Of course, running into a winter, so heating oil and gas. So first off, the price, we're at nearly $80 a barrel. And it's sold off a couple of bucks, but I think they're still going to bounce and it'll probably edge higher. But one thing for sure, it's volatile. Secondly, natural gas prices booming to the upside. I think I looked at something yesterday afternoon, $5.80. It was only $2.50 for a unit of measurement for nat gas. So have a look at that, what we've seen in the last 6 to 9 months. Again, inflation, again, it hits people in the hip pocket. As far as you were saying, trucks being delivering fuel, and I would think that it'd be the next part as far as once the fuel is delivered, it'll go back to the Australian situation. I remember it as a boy, Will, and you're probably much too young. Only compliment I think I've given you this year. And in 73, we had odd and even number plates as far as fuel. So Monday was an odd, Tuesday was an even. So if your last digit of your number plate was a 9 or a 7 or an 8 and a 6, that dictated what day you could go to the petrol station to get your fuel. So that may be a reintroduction across UK, could be a reintroduction if that same contagion runs across Europe. And then thirdly, the ongoing issue from a domestic versus global footprint, production, demand picture as far as energy, electricity consumption, all of these issues. One of the great concerns is that you had massive Capex going back into 18 globally for energy, and then 1920 it just hemorrhaged. And so you haven't had that run up as far as Capex, you haven't spent on new developments and new technologies and whatever else you spend your couple of $100 billion a year on. And so that greatly impacts from a supply side. And that's going to be, I think, one of the handbrakes that are going to present themselves to the consumer over the next 3 to 6 months.
I want from you 3 minutes, 3 critical minutes on where we stand today in terms of global supply chain, the geopolitics, the impact of oil, the change of government in Japan, Canada, and Germany. Why is this good for traders?
I think first off, it has created volatility, and that is an unknown as far as the playbook after the volatility. Why? Well, inflation, bond yields, taper talks. We've had enough. We've got to pull back all of that stimulus. So how quickly does it get unwound? Property values, as we've spoken for the last 2 years together, property prices have just gone boom, and that doesn't matter if it's the back streets of Auckland, New Zealand, doesn't matter if it's Western Australia, doesn't matter if it's Singapore, anywhere in the world. Well, most importantly, a lot of these big capital cities have had huge growth. So what happens to, again, that debt level that needs to be serviced? Interest rates being crept up, and that'll probably happen as we're going to see in 22, 23 and onwards. So there's that side that needs to be thought through. Inflation, we've spoken about that many times, and I think that's an unknown. People are just now starting to wake up and going, yeah, it does cost more. And then from a geopolitical standpoint with crude oil, I've got to say the Middle East has been very much under control. We had that terrible situation in Afghanistan, but that seems to have now abated, and it wasn't a roll across that strategic Iraq issue and then into Saudi. That seems to have very much placated. I'm not seeing anything in news to really shake you around. Even Nigeria is pretty much under control. So I think it's just hold on to the wheel. We're coming out of a very dark time, and some people have had an enormous 18 months. They've made more money than you could ever imagine, but there's a lot of people that are hurt, and I just only wish that their businesses certainly open up and they're able to enjoy and get back to turning the engine on, and their customer base welcomed, and and profitability is back on the table.
Turn the energy on, get profitable. Tough, easy to say, will be probably very challenging to do. But Pete, what's the trade in all of that, in that landscape of property, energy, politics, food, finance, entertainment? What's the trade?
US dollar's been nice, Will. Had a really nice move to the upside. It's back above 94.3 for the traders, that US dollar index. So it looks like there's a little bit more momentum to the upside. I'd say over the week, you might see a little bit of a creep higher. Don't be surprised to see it sold off, and it might go down a cent, because it doesn't, as we've discussed here, it doesn't stop. The market, you can be long and short, 10 times over a business day, or over a 24-hour window. So I think keep an eye on US dollar. Equities are too hard to call. It's very toppy. We're going into October, Will. And when you think about all of the big meltdowns, the three major ones, they've all happened in October. So let's hope that we get through this October without it being a red October.
Well, there it is. There's the call. Let's get through this October, and let's see how we come out the other side. Pete McGuire, any final words before we sign off?
Thank you very much for the last 9 months. It's been wonderful. 21's been a great year to work with you and Boardroom Media. We take it around the world. And as we look into the fourth quarter, resilience, health, and happiness is more important than anything. So keep on keeping on, and good health to everyone. See you next week.
Peter, thank you. Speak soon.